Hello, I'm ABX2Cat, and welcome back to another second channel video. Today I have some more Geography of Toy Cat. It's everyone's favourite second channel series that people actually do seem to like, so I figured let's do another one, and let's talk about countries, because countries, like most things in geography, seem like they have a really easy definition. Like, you can look at a map and you can say, oh, Poland. Guess what? They're a country. Norway, they are also a country. The UK, they are a country too. And so is Spain. So is Mexico, by the way. And look, isn't it handy how Google Map has these big bold text to let you know what is a country and what isn't? Well, truth be told, it's not that simple. The definition of country, like with most things, is kind of subject to just kind of like what we have kind of agreed are countries, which means there's no real defined set of rules. And the closest thing we do have is the United Nations. If you're a member of the United Nations, you count as a country. If you're not a member of the United Nations, you're kind of somewhere in between not a country at all and somewhere between being a country, depending on your recognition internationally, which means that basically being a country is just a cool club, and if you know enough people in that club, you can join it too. And I always kind of talk about the weirdness of this, and don't go over the countries from the very bottom of the pile, countries that are recognized by no one, to the very top of the pile, and countries which are basically countries and really just are, but kind of have some weird international disputes that make things a bit interesting. So that's what we're going through in today's video. Countries that aren't countries to countries that are countries but aren't countries, and you get the point. So yeah, hopefully you do all enjoy the video. Let's get straight into it. So let's start with the very bottom of the heap here, and the very bottom of the heap is a country recognized by no other country on Earth, not even ones that aren't recognized, which is where things get a bit weird, but it is actually the a part of Somalia, a country which, again, by itself has kind of a bad reputation, but Somalia has a, an autonomous province they call Somaliland that officially claims itself to be an independent country. So this is Somaliland right here, as you can see, just a little autonomous province that has a very small number of people, but they do consider themselves to be independent. They do have their own flag, it looks like this, and they even have their own national anthem, which I'll play for you now because it's very different to every other national anthem out there. And I think, yeah, I don't know, there's something about this that just makes it go, you know what? Even though they're not recognized, they don't hit any of the rules for being a country. You gotta admit, they had a kid in a keyboard do something funky here, and I like it. It's different. It's like 21st century, and that's kind of cool, I guess. So yeah, this is the Somaliland national anthem. I think it's pretty cool, and that's why Somaliland makes the list, because even though it's not recognized, they tried, darn it, and that counts for something. So let's seriously move on to the next set of countries, because then there's a tier above not being recognized by anyone, which is being recognized by only other non-UN states. That basically, there's a club of 4 countries, most of them USSR related, that actually all kind of band together and say, yeah, we recognize each other. However, only 2 of them are recognized by any country outside, that are actually inside the UN, sorry. So there's 2 countries which are only recognized by other countries that no one recognizes as being official countries and that aren't part of the UN. So rather than just saying the words all over again, let's talk about what they are. So the first one is a part of Moldova called the Transnistria region. Again, on Google Maps, because it's not officially a country, you'll just see the light outlines because it's an autonomous province, which is just really the sneaky way of saying that it's its own separate country. This is the Transnistria region right here. As you can see, it's a very thin country that kind of straddles the border between Moldova and Ukraine. They declared their independence in 1990, and they've kind of been an independent nation since in a lot of ways. Their capital is Tiraspol. They have their own flag. Again, they have all that sort of stuff that kind of makes them unique, but the reality behind them existing is they just kind of create some weird, border issues between Moldova and Ukraine. If you want to go from Moldova to Ukraine, which, by the way, I believe is the first poorest and second poorest country in Europe, if you want to go between those two, it's a really interesting little thing because, the border between Transnistria, even though it is its own border, isn't recognized as Moldova as being a border. So you need to get your passport stamped in a weird way if you're traveling through there. Just a heads up. Doesn't really count as a country, but they're trying, and they got their own capital. They've got some things that would make them a country. And given that Moldova is originally just a part of Romania that kind of got separated anyway, you can kind of argue they're just Moldova for Moldova. And that's how I think of them anyway. So yeah, that's the Transnistria region. It's a hard word to pronounce, but that's the first of the countries that aren't really recognized by other countries. The second one is one that's really hard to actually show on a map because it's not even properly showed. It is the Nagamo, wait, I've got the name here, Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. So it's a part of Azerbaijan that it's mostly made up of Armenians. One of the weird things about the USSR is that Stalin moved a lot of people around and made the borders really, really, really weird here. And one of the downsides of that is there's kind of a group of Armenians in Azerbaijan that kind of claim their independence. Again, not recognized by anyone internationally, especially not anyone that's actually part of the UN. And that's why they're the second part of this club. It's even harder to see their borders, and they've got a long name, so I'm not really a big fan of them. They've got their own flag, they've got everything they kind of need, but they're only recognized by the other kind of group of 4 countries. So the other 2 countries in the group of 4, because of international politics and relations and stuff, actually are recognized by UN nations, and because they're both part of Georgia, that's the reason why. So Russia, Venezuela, and a few other countries, communist country, or ex-communist countries I should say, actually do recognize the South Ossetia, which is this region right here, and the other one, I believe it's Abkhazia. This declared independence in 1999, and this declared independence in 1991, and because of that, They both got recognized eventually, and they're kind of like partial countries. They're only recognized by a few countries within the UN. They don't have a seat at the UN themselves because they're so poorly recognized, and basically they upset Georgia a lot, and I think that's a big part of why Russia likes them. I mean, it's way more complex than that, but you get the point. Because they're a part of Georgia, they do get to be considered a country by Russia, and international relations are complex, but still, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, countries that you won't be told are real countries, even though they get the nice little dotted dash lines, because they are kind of official countries. And along the same lines, there's a few other countries that are like this, where kind of it's to do with an invasion, or there's international policies that mean most countries don't want to recognize them. The first one is Northern Cyprus. Northern Cyprus was invaded by Turkey a long time ago, and it now means Cyprus is kind of in this weird situation where Turkey claims the whole island exists, which means Cyprus doesn't exist as far as Turkey is concerned. But as far as the entire international community besides Turkey is concerned, this is still Cyprus. It was an illegal invasion, and they need to just stop calling it Northern Cyprus. But again, international policies, kind of complex and stuff. Next up, we kind of go to the tier of countries that really we all agree are countries, but there's big kind of issues. I don't want to go into them too much, but first of all, we've got, well, actually, I guess the next tier is like half recognized countries. So we've got the SADC Republic, or the SAD Republic, which is basically a country that claims, to own the Western Sahara territory. There's less than 500,000 people living there. It's not a very populous country, but it is still one of those big disputes between Morocco and the SADC, and as a result, roughly half the United Nations don't recognize them. It is one of these big things where they kind of made it a big club between one side and the other. And the other one of these issues is Kosovo. So there was a big Kosovo war. Kosovo declared independence in 2008. There's a long story of Yugoslavia and independent Serbian regions. But yeah, Serbia doesn't recognize them, and a lot of other countries don't. But the vast majority in the world have some level of recognition for Kosovo. They're at that level where they're almost a country. They'll be there soon. I reckon, Kosovo and its Pristina and all that stuff, they'll be recognized as a country one day. But we've got a long way to go because, again, international relations are complex. So, with that said, let's just kind of move on to the final category, which is countries that everyone agrees are a country, but technically there is a dispute, and therefore, technically, you should reevaluate whether you consider them. So, first of all, I don't even talk about this one too much because it's such a mess, but we've got the Israel and Palestine kind of issue. Palestine isn't recognized by some countries. Israel isn't recognized by some countries. I don't even want to, but you get that is a thing that some people care about in the world. We also have the issue of North Korea and South Korea. Obviously, even though they're both UN members, which is interesting. Where are they? I'm having problems finding them all of a sudden. But even though both North Korea and South Korea are UN members, they're all the way up there. Never mind. Even though they're both UN members, North Korea claims to own all of this territory, and South Korea claims to own this territory. So they're not actually recognized by each other, and Japan doesn't recognize North Korea either. But besides that, North Korea is recognized as a country in the world, which is one of those really interesting little facts where, even though we're going to be all, annoying about Kosovo, and we're going to be all a bit weird about the SADC and Western Sahara, North Korea is recognized by every country except South Korea and Japan. And the same thing kind of goes with Taiwan. This is the final story I wanted to tell, because this is the most interesting story here, because it really proves that international recognition of being a country is one of the most powerful things you can have, because basically, again, the history of China and Taiwan is really big and complex, and I don't know all of it, but the cliff notes on it are that China had a big civil war, the communists won on the mainland, and their big government kind of went to the this island in exile, which meant there were two Chinas for quite some time. Officially, there still is the People's Republic of China, this thing here, and there is the Republic of China over here, which is a really confusing name clash. However, the Republic of China is just called Taiwan now, but for the sake of it, just bear in mind they were called China at the same time. The government actually went from the People's Republic of China, which is the communist nation, to there, and because they were the official government and they were internationally recognized, they had the UN seat, they had the ability to nuke, they had all of the powers off mainland China, basically, despite being just a tiny little nation. So, yeah, right now there's some weird censorship disputes between China and Taiwan, like you can't even mention it if you're Chinese for some reason, but, long story short, all you need to do is be internationally recognized as a country, and then you basically are them. If I was internationally recognized as Russia, I wouldn't be, but I could sit at that seat at the table, and I would have their power to veto at the UN, that's something pretty powerful. So, vote Toycat to be Russia 2016. That's a thing we can totally make happen. If we just get enough international leaders to recognize me as Russia, then maybe that'll happen. But in all seriousness, yeah, those are the international countries that aren't countries. I'm sure I'd go through the list again, but we are running out of time. I hope you did all enjoy today's video. If you liked it, let me know. Do you want to see more geography of Toycat words and stuff in the comments? My camera's zoomed in, so like you can only see part of this arm over here. But you know, we tried. So thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye. Okay, we're gonna hit the stop button. Alright, wait.